Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. All right, guys, welcome back. Thank you, Mr. Producer. Okay. I am with an amazing guest here. I'm joined by Dominique Hoffman. Dominique, so nice to see you and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You are a clinical nutritionist.
Yes.
And you tell me what you created and the name of the company and what you do there. Just a little bit of a little background.
Sure. So the name of the nutrition practice is Zizania. And I'm a clinical nutritionist, and I have been helping people with their health problems for 14 years. And in the course of that, I realized what I was doing was really simple. It is a diet that is high in micronutrients and low in macronutrients. With this combination, because when we talk about nutrition, we talk only about food combinations, macro and micro, that's all there is to nutrition. But by properly combining your micronutrients and macronutrients, it's all you can eat. You don't have to worry about calories. You don't have to worry about portions. We let the body tell us how much we need to eat instead of arbitrarily portioning our food.
Wow, it's so incredible. Can you just, in the beginning, what is a macronutrient? What is a micronutrient?
Sure. Micronutrients are those that don't have calorie. They are chemical compounds. That's vitamins and minerals. Macronutrients are your carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. These have calories. 1 gram of carbohydrates or 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. Now, here is your quiz for the day. Where do we put fiber? Is it a macro or micro?
That would be in the first category.
Actually, that is a macronutrient because it's a big molecule, but it can go in the micro category because it doesn't have calories digestible by humans. It is digested by the bacteria in your colon, which we call the colonic flora, and that makes that flora healthier, which in turn allow us to have better digestion and absorption.
Okay. When you said there's 1 gram of protein and carbohydrates is 4 calories and fat is 9, why is alcohol 9?
That's a good question. It depends on the alcohol. You find out that beer will have less calories than wine, less alcohol, the more alcohol, the more calories. But the calories in alcohol are not digested the same way as calories in food. They are metabolized very quickly. Oh. So if you are consuming alcohol, it's a good idea to always eat something that has fat to slow down the digestion of alcohol so it doesn't go to the brain. Now, here is really an important tip for the listeners. Women are not supposed to drink. That is discrimination by nature. We are not supposed to drink alcohol because there is an enzyme in the stomach that helps men metabolize alcohol. In women, it's sluggish, it doesn't work, and the alcohol goes immediately to the brain, which will give us a more severe hangover, but also can increase the addiction to alcohol.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Well, with this diet that you came up with, the micro-rich, this is the program, right? I assume it's different for everyone. Who's a good candidate for micro-rich?
I don't like saying everybody, but really everybody, because it is the natural way to eat. But the people that come to me are the ones that have either an autoimmune disease like lupus, PCOS. If you wouldn't know what that is, you're very lucky. Type 2 diabetes is my largest client base because type 2 diabetes, especially if it's cut in time, 100% reversible with diet. Then I do a lot with weight loss. Every person who calls me for weight loss. And then I discover all these problems. I'm like, we need to work on your digestion. We need really to do something about, the reason why you have chronic fatigue. There is a reason for that. So, right. And the diet really, it fixes all these problems.
Okay. So what about people who are vegetarian or vegan? Does that play a part in this micro-rich program?
It works really well. The only thing is they have to understand that there are good carbs and bad carbs. They are good proteins and bad proteins. They are good fats and bad fats. And that's pretty much valuable information for everybody. But when it comes to people who live on a plant-based diet, they have to pay attention to proper combinations so they don't eat a diet that's too high in carbohydrates, which tends to happen because they don't know how to make the proper combinations. And you can gain weight on a vegetarian diet. It's very easy to do. Like any diet that you're on, you have to know how to combine the foods properly.
Did I hear you correctly when you said before that there's no limit to how much you can eat?
With the macro-rich diet, no, there is no portion control. You don't want to do that manually. So when I start people, I tell them how to combine these foods properly. So it's high in micro, low in macro. And at first they look at me like I'm growing a third eye. It's like, oh, really? I can eat as much as I want? I'm like, yes, please do. And the more you eat, the better, because we are working on the healing. So the first 2 weeks, they're ravenously hungry, they eat around the clock, and they still lose weight. Women usually lose between 3 to 5 pounds in the first week. Men, I have seen men who lose up to 10 pounds in just 1 week. Now, not all of it is fat. It's having better elimination, lots of water retention that gets to be released. So weight loss is not an issue. So after that, what happens once the body is properly nourished? You probably, if you remember your biology 101, we have mitochondria in our cells that metabolize fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. And in order to do that, they need, you have enzymes that do that process. And the enzymes need little tools. The little tools they need are the micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, zinc, B complex, vitamin C, and things like that. Once the body has all these tools to do the job it's supposed to do, once the liver has all these nutrients to do proper detoxification, then you don't need as many calories. When the body asks for more and more and more food, is because it's not satisfied. We see that a lot with type 2 diabetes. If you see a diabetic who's like eating and they can't stop eating, don't tell them to stop eating. They have to change their diet, because these signals are, the body is saying, I need minerals, I need vitamins, I need more of this, I need more of that. But all we know, we interpret that as more food.
Right. Right.
But once the body is satisfied and it has all its nutrients, then you don't need to eat as much. The requirements for calories go down.
So is that everyone who starts the program the first 2 weeks? You can eat no. Are there certain foods you can't eat, or you can eat whatever you want just to get all that stuff in, and then you can work with the person? If you could expand on that a little bit, because
Sure.
I know people want to hear more about it.
Yeah, well, there is a method to it. You can it's all you can eat from the recipes and the the meal plan that I designed.
Okay.
Let me give you an example.
Sure.
So you don't want to go to KFC, and I don't know if I can say
No, you're cool. You're cool.
Yeah, you can go to some restaurant and just, it's all you can eat. So if I give you a quinoa salad, for example, that has protein already, with the quinoa, we're going to overwhelm it with tomatoes, cucumbers, cilantro. We're going to add lime juice, olive oil for seasoning, maybe salt. And then we're going to eat that on top of greens. So now what we have is ingredients that are very high in micronutrients, cilantro, lettuce, cucumber, tomatoes. They don't have much calories.
Okay.
Our calories are coming from the quinoa, which is fine because it's 1 part quinoa and 2 parts of these non-starchy vegetables. Now it's all you can eat.
Okay. All right. And is it better, or in the program, do you eat 3 meals a day, or are you grazing? Do you eat 6 meals, small? How does that work?
Thank you. That is a great question. So these arbitrary and fake eating times are created really by the diet industry to slow people down from eating too much or prevent them from starving. In reality, you eat when hungry. That is the only rule. And the only thing I recommend people don't do is snack. Like I have a client who snacks at midnight or 11 p.m. That's way too late.
That's no good.
So you want to finish eating about 2 to 3 hours before going to sleep. And the other important thing is you don't want to snack after dinner. Dinner is the last meal of the day. If you're hungry, go to bed. Next morning, you will eat a copious breakfast and you reset the rhythm.
Mm-hmm. And is it true what they say? When we were growing up, breakfast is the most important part of the day. Is there any truth to that?
That's actually still true.
Really?
Because if you don't eat in the morning and you wait, like these people who do intermittent fasting, and you wait 5-6 hours before eating, your body shuts down and you don't spend any calories because your metabolism doesn't have anything to work with.
Oh.
So it shuts down. When time to eat comes, you're going to be extremely hungry.
Yeah.
Then you're going to eat more than you need because you're just eating really fast. You're very hungry. So you are going to overeat, but also you're not going to pay attention to the quality of your food. So that's right? And that's how people gain weight, is starvation and then overcompensating.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. Do you believe, is there something to it? Because I don't mean to personalize this, but I think a lot of the audience can kind of hear what I'm saying here. Is like on the weekend, some of us really like to sleep in. And, you say we were used to getting up at 8 a.m. During the week. But on the weekends, hey, we don't got to be at work. So, hey, let's sleep till 2 o'clock, and then you find out a little bit later that you are ravenous and you're so hungry. Is there a inner clock that says you need to have this many calories a day? And if you don't get them at some point, even if you have a steak and a huge meal, you need more calories. So you're going to be hungry in another half hour. Is there any truth to that?
Well, what happens if you can sleep until 2 p.m., that means you had a large meal before and you're not hungry. Because if you're hungry, the hunger will wake you up.
Okay.
And you will not be able to sleep until 2. Okay. So when you wake up, that's the time to eat. That would be your first meal of the day. Mm-hmm. And then you need to have another meal. So if you wake up at 2 o'clock, let's say you shower or whatever, and you eat at 2:30, then make sure that your next meal is at 3 o'clock anyway. So maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock, you have another meal. That's pretty much dinner.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If you're going to go partying and go to bed at 2 a.m. again, then make sure you eat dinner around 10 p.m.
Okay. All right. This is all interesting. So with the micro-rich diet, the first 2 weeks we discussed, and we're getting the body ready. Yes. We're putting everything in there. And sometimes people even lose weight the first 2 weeks.
Oh, absolutely. The weight loss starts in the first week. Unless if the weight does not go down in the first week, then there is a reason. And I encounter that most of the time with women who have an autoimmune disease like PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, lupus sometimes, menopause, and this is really an important one. I would like, if the audience doesn't take anything from this meeting, this is the one I want them to remember. People who have done yo-yo dieting for years, meaning they lose, they gain constantly. Okay. The body doesn't respond anymore. So it will take a long time to balance the body, to reset all the messengers, all the biochemistry in the body, before they can start lose weight again. So we can take some time. It's possible. They just have to be patient.
Okay, so might need another couple of weeks or something.
It's more than a couple of weeks. It's several months.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So well, that brings up something really interesting then. So how do you feel about when we're going through puberty,
the appetite goes up.
The appetite goes up. Does how we ate during that time when we're developing and stuff, does that play a part later in life?
It's more psychological. And I have run into a few people actually in that category. When you go through that period where you need huge amounts of food, especially for young men, and the food is not available, you can develop an eating disorder. Wow. And you just you eat around the clock. I have met a woman who I'm sorry, there was my email. I need to turn it off.
It's okay.
One time at meal times, she has to take her food and go eat in a corner.
Oh, so hides it.
Yeah. And so it took me a while to find out why she was still overeating. She wasn't listening to what, she wasn't responding to what we were doing. And then I said, when you were growing up, was food abundant? She said, oh no, I had to fight with my siblings to get it.
Right.
So she still has that mentality of hiding to eat.
I see.
So, yeah, so we have, so as nutritionists, we have to be cognizant of these issues and cover them, bring them to light, and maybe send the patient to therapy.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, have you worked with athletes? Because with wrestlers, with jockeys, gymnasts, they got to do a thing called sucking weight, meaning, no water, no food.
Right.
Even at young ages. Does that? How do you feel about that?
Honestly, a lot of what the athletes do is unhealthy.
Yeah.
And unnatural when it comes to food. So I specifically don't work with them. They are people who are specialized in that, who can train them, because they're eating for a very, not for health, but for specific purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And ethically, I can't do that.
Wow, that's real interesting. Oh, I see.
But bodybuilders are a good example. They tend to eat a huge amount of animal proteins, and we'll cover proteins in another show. But there is a problem overeating proteins, like there is a problem overeating cheap carbs. So if you're ODing on pretzels and French fries and donuts, everyone knows these foods are not healthy.
Right.
It is the same thing if you eat huge amounts of meat.
Wow.
It is not healthy to overeat any macronutrients, either it's fat, carbs, or protein.
So in the micro-rich program, do you say no supplements, no protein shakes, nothing like that? Everything's got to be real food. What do you think?
We focus on real food. That's the priority. Depending on what the health problem is, we may have to add some supplementation. So if you have people with chronic fatigue, they have been tired, they may have adrenal fatigue, they may have mitochondrial insufficiency. Food is not going to be enough to bring them up to speed, so to speak.
Okay.
So we have to supplement with vitamin B complex, vitamin C, maybe some minerals. Now you have to be careful with supplementation. You don't want to give someone vitamin D if they already have too much of it. You have to have their doctor run a blood test to check the vitamin D level. You don't want to give someone things they don't need, like iron, for example. You don't want to have too much iron. It is a very limited amount of iron you can take, because too much iron can be toxic.
I heard women don't have a lot of iron. Is that true?
No, they do, but in the reproductive years, they lose lots of iron through menstruation.
Oh, okay.
But if they have a proper diet, they don't need to supplement, or maybe take a multivitamin.
Okay, so a multivitamin is good, and that would be okay in the program?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The only thing I have to caution people against is supplements are not regulated by the FDA or anybody.
Yes.
So you want to be very careful when you take supplements. Make sure they are recommended by a nutritionist like myself, a functional medicine doctor. Now, functional medicine physician is not the same as your family physician. Family physicians don't really recommend supplements. Maybe vitamin D, but that's about it. So you need to go to someone who understands how supplements work and who has really studied biochemistry in depth. So because they are not regulated, if you go and buy them over the counter, you can get something that's not effective, because instead of having vitamin B or C, they're going to have rice powder.
Right.
Or worse, they could have ingredients that could hurt you.
Right. Yeah. So it's not regulated. Like, you don't know what you're going to get unless you talk to someone like yourself who knows a good company or a reputable company, because there's a lot of fly-by-night.
Right, because we know what brands are loyal and they are pure and they deliver really a good quality product. And what you see on the label is what's in the pill.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is it a urban legend or a wives' tale? Like if you take too many supplements, too many vitamins and minerals, that you develop kidney stones. Is that bunk?
Um, well, that does. How do I answer that? It would be very rare. The thing that would cause kidney stones would be maybe too much calcium, but only if it's combined with oxalates. A lot of this is really an interesting phenomenon I observed over the years. Americans eat a lot of spinach. When an American hears leafy greens, they immediately think spinach. Spinach is high in oxalate. It is not a healthy vegetable. First, because it can combine with calcium and leach it out of the body. This is a particular problem for women on menopause because they need more calcium. And with eating too much spinach, they can lose that calcium. And then because spinach is high in oxalates, the micronutrients that are in it, iron, magnesium, manganese, they are not bioavailable. So you will not be absorbing the nutrients.
Get rid of them. Huh?
Another important fact that I would like to bring to light is people think spinach is high in iron. It's not. It has a little bit of iron, and it's bioavailable only if you cook the spinach. But parsley has 3 times more iron than spinach.
Parsley, the stuff you sprinkle on.
That's right. Parsley is not a garnish. It's an ingredient. Please eat it next time it's in front of you.
Okay. Wow. A lot of great information here. What is when you work with the type 2 diabetics, you say that through the program and eating right, you can if you catch it, you can reverse it?
If we catch people on time when they are first diagnosed, even like in the first 5 years, we can definitely reverse it unless there is another underlying problem.
And is that a lot to do with obesity?
Not necessarily. That's the common label for type 2 diabetes. That's actually not true. I have worked with several people who were actually underweight and their glucose was off the chart.
Wow.
It is caused by stress. So there are 2 things that can cause your glucose to go up. Stress that goes up, up, up and never comes down. And high protein, high fat diet.
Wow. So that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up because that seems to be a lot of people are talking about that, whatever that is called. It's called what is that called? It's the
ketogenic diet.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. So
that's how you get diabetes.
That's a fast way to diabetes, huh?
Everyone who knocks at my door, who's been diabetic, has been put on a high protein diet, and this has gotten worse. I have not seen one person who has had type 2 diabetes and solved the problem with protein.
Wow.
The problem gets worse because that's what causes it. Another myth that I would like really to debunk today, if I may.
Yeah.
Diabetes is not caused by sugar. It is not caused by carbohydrates. It is caused by saturated fat.
Really?
You have
expand on that, please.
Yeah, you have extremely few, for example, vegetarians that would develop type 2 diabetes. I mean, unless you're eating refined carbs, if all you eat is, donuts and candy and refined sugar, yes, you would develop diabetes because these donuts is a good example. When you eat a donut, you're eating fried dough. That's carbohydrates and fat. There is something there when you expose fat to high heat, like frying or roasting, there is something called the Maillard reaction. And I'm very proud to say that reaction is developed by a French biochemist by the name of Maillard. So now we know it as the Maillard reaction, is when the sugar and the fat combine in a non-biological manner. You know this, Greg, as a free radical.
Okay. So
free radicals have to be cleansed, have to be quenched. And the way we quench free radicals is with antioxidants. So if you have a diet that's high in those cheap carbohydrates, fried food, and you don't have any antioxidants, by the way, come from colorful plant foods, fruits, vegetables. If you don't have enough antioxidants, then your chances of getting diabetes and cancer are much higher.
Wow.
But eating pasta or rice will not cause diabetes, I guarantee it.
What now? Can you explain the difference between, Mr. Producer, how am I doing on time? Oh, I got it. Okay. I guess I can ask one more question. Okay. So eating pasta, what is the difference between a good carb and a bad carb, like you were saying? Like we know about saturated fat and the unsaturated, we know about, but what about a good and a bad carb? Can you, in the last question, can you talk to us about that?
Sure. A good carbohydrate is one that has fiber and or protein. Beans, lentils, all the legumes are very good carbohydrates. They're high in protein, minerals, most importantly, fiber, which slows down the digestion of sugar. Pasta is really a complex carbohydrate because it digests slowly, but you always want to eat your pasta with vegetables, not with meatballs. If you eat it with meatballs, you're combining macronutrients without any macronutrients.
That thing you were just talking about, that
combination, right? So these are the good, healthy carbohydrates.
Okay, awesome. I am enthralled. This is such a great show. I'm so glad that you came on. Great information. You're helping a lot of people. We're out of time, but I'm going to give you the last word. If you can, tell people how to get a hold of you, and what you got coming up. It's been a pleasure to speak with you, and I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody who wrote in. We'll do it in the future, but great show, Dominique. Please, let me give you the last word.
Thank you. So my name is Dominique Hoffman. You can reach me by phone, 703-639-7063, or via my website, and I'm going to spell it. That's ZIZANIA.com. I'll see you there.
Great job, and have a great weekend. Can't wait to hear what you have to say.
You do the same. Thank you so much.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.